Wow, Rebecca, you're here.
I'm going to be kind of squinting at you guys, I think, a lot because I have these three lights, and then I'm doing this on my cell phone. So
Oh wow.
I know. Oh well, like I said,
Well,
wrong century, but I am here, and I'm trying to read things on my computer. So.
Well, thanks for figuring that out.
Yep. Thanks for being patient as I got it operational.
Of course.
John Jake said that he's ready to go. We're live.
Alrighty. Thanks, Michelle, and thanks, Jake. I'll go ahead and call this regular meeting of the Whitefish City Council to order for March 1st, 2021. Thanks, everyone, for joining us remotely via WebEx tonight and participating. We have a relatively short agenda, but our first item will be, I've just asked Michelle to do a quick roll call for the record of the council members joining us, as well as staff tonight.
Thank you. Councillor Quinnell.
I am here.
Councillor Sweeney.
I am here.
Councillor Davis.
Present.
Councillor Hennon.
Here.
Councillor Norton.
Present.
And Councillor Fury is absent.
Thanks, Michelle. We'll move on to our Pledge of Allegiance this evening. I know Richard Heldner's on the phone. I don't see him on audio or video, excuse me, but Richard, would you mind leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance tonight? Apparently, he might not be with us yet. Rebecca, how about you lead us tonight, please?
Yeah, I'm not
here.
on video, but you guys.
Rebecca, I think you're muted, but you can go ahead and lead us, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks very much, Rebecca. We will move to communications from the public. We do have one ordinance and one public hearing this evening. So if you're here to speak to the one public hearing, please wait until I call that agenda item. Otherwise, now would be your opportunity to bring any comments forward to the City Council. For the record, your name and address for the record, please. And I'll defer to Michelle to manage the communications from the public this evening. Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you. So if you do want to speak towards the council about any issue, right now, please go towards your list, find your name, and click over your name and click on the hand icon. It's kind of in between your name, and there'll be a chat button and a picture of your microphone. You can also *3 off your phone, or you can the three dots to the left of the X down at the bottom of your screen. That's an option. Or you can send me a chat. I do have one public comment that we did receive in written form. John, would you like me to read that aloud? Okay, thank you. I think I read your lips.
Yes, please. Thanks, Michelle.
Thanks. Okay, so it says this was received, emailed on the 28th of February. Dear members of Whitefish City Council. Hello, my name is Hannah. I have been a wildland firefighter with the U.S. Forest Service here in the Flathead Valley for 5 years. I live in the Cedar Haven Apartments in Whitefish on Colorado, close to the viaduct. My apartment building is 16 units and is made up of the working class people of Whitefish. Those living in our apartment complex include service workers, firefighters, families, and half of the units are occupied by elderly and retired folks that have raised their families in Whitefish. Last week, someone bought our apartment building and we will be evicted within 90 days. Our apartment building is one of the few affordable housing units in Whitefish. We will be evicted so that the new owner can remodel the unit into luxury condos. Many of us living here do not have alternative living options, as the rental market in Whitefish and the Valley as a whole is slim to non-existent, especially in the affordable realm. On the Craigslist apartment housing page, you will find less posts of actual housing and more posts on the local workforce looking for housing. Veterans, healthcare workers, service workers, firefighters, and our elderly are being displaced by the money that is flowing into the Valley. Locals talk of leaving because of the current rental inventory. Taken together, the working class that runs this resort town is being driven out. We have an affordable housing crisis on our hands in Whitefish, and is exacerbated by the pandemic and by the wealthy elite that flock here. The migration of money and those with money into the Valley during the pandemic is quickly shifting the social makeup of our community in ways that we may not be able to reverse without immediate attention to this issue. I feel a sense of community in this place and within the local firefighting workforce of which I am a part of, but I am afraid that I will have to leave. Housing options in Whitefish and the Valley do not reflect the income of the people that live here, including those of my workforce and I. I write to you to ask if there's an eviction moratorium that can be issued to protect us in Cedar Haven apartments from being evicted during a global pandemic. The flux of money into our valley is causing a great schism, and action needs to be taken immediately to address the gap. It is wrong that a wealthy vacationer can evict the local workforce during a pandemic. This eviction is not because the buildings are hazardous and not urgent and need urgent repair, but rather for the goal of profit in a time when many locals are already financially stressed and unable to find alternative housing options. Please consider my request, and thank you for your time and consideration. Thank you, Hannah Perna.
Thanks, Michelle.
Yeah, no problem. So with that, let me read my comments. I don't have any other public comment.
All right, thanks, Michelle. We'll move on to communications from volunteer boards. Are there any folks in attendance tonight with volunteer board reports? Michelle. And then I'll go to council.
Please raise your hand if you are here to report on a volunteer board. I don't see any, John.
Thanks, Michelle. I'll turn it back to council. Councilor Quinnell.
Yeah, the Legacy Lands Advisory Committee met, and we discussed the TIF, not the TIF, the resort tax, what we had talked about, what we had previously authorized for the resort tax a little bit, and they were going to be in on the next meeting. And then we discussed all the cool new stuff that's coming up for the Whitefish Trail, which is, it just keeps getting better and better.
Great, thanks, Steve. Further volunteer board reports from the council.
I have two.
Thanks,
John.
Rebecca.
Andy and I attended the Health Insurance Committee meeting, and we are going to remain with the insurance agency that Allegiance. They are going to be adding vitamin D testing as part of the wellness screening benefit. So anybody in the community might think about doing that this year too, since it does affect COVID. People with low vitamin D are more susceptible. And also the tree committee will be meeting on March 9th at 6 p.m. to walk the last section of the State Park Road remodel. And the public is welcome to attend also.
Thanks, Rebecca. Additional reports from the council?
Mr. Mayor, I was at the Bike Ped meeting this morning, and their topic for discussion was the Riverbend Trail there along Miles, and that was their focus of their attention this morning. they want to pursue the possibility of putting a trail on the riverside of the condos. They're going to prepare what amounts to a white paper, they say, on why that's a good idea and how we could do that and how that would be functional. That will come then to the park board for their consideration and then to the city council at that point, just so you're aware.
Great. Thank you very much, Frank. Additional reports from the council? Not seeing any. We do have the consent agenda under item 5 of the agenda. Any changes or additions to the February 16th regular meeting or work session minutes? Or can I have a motion for approval, please?
Mr. Mayor, I would move to approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
I'll second.
Seconded by Councillor Hennon. Michelle, roll call, please.
Counselor Quinnell,
Aye.
Counselor Sweeney,
Aye.
Counselor Davis,
In favor.
Counselor Hennon,
Aye.
and Counselor Norton.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. And the consent agenda passes unanimously with no corrections to the minutes from February 16th, which moves us quickly on to our one public hearing this evening, which will be ordinance number 21-02, an ordinance pursuant to Title 6, Chapter 2, Section 5, prohibited and restricted parking of the Whitefish City Code to establish additional parking restrictions. And we have Craig's report enclosed with the packet. Craig, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you very much. Everyone's favorite topic. Once again, we're going to talk about parking. Can I share my screen, Michelle, whenever you get a chance? I'll just run through the staff report. This is going to seem pretty familiar because we talked about it last month, but as it is a public hearing, we will go through it. Oh, hold on, now I have to move my agenda. Okay, so good evening. The Public Works Department receives requests from residents, property owners, and businesses throughout the year to evaluate various traffic and parking restrictions. These requests are evaluated based on their merits, and requests that require update to city ordinance are brought to council occasionally for your consideration. As I'm sure you'll recall, we did present some parking changes to you guys last month at your meeting in an effort to receive some direction on how to proceed. And the proposed ordinance based on this direction is included in your packet. We also advertised for a public hearing in the Whitefish pilot. So the first area that we're going to look at is on Spokane Avenue. This is the 300 block of Spokane between 3rd and 4th. So here we are. First Interstate Bank is on the southwest corner of this block, and then a number of businesses up here on the northeast corner of the block. So council received a request for a new bus stop on this block from the Big Mountain Commercial Association last year. With the changes in the physical structure of Central Avenue, the path through the center of town has become more dangerous for bus drivers to safely navigate. And so therefore, beginning this year, the snow bus no longer travels on Central Avenue. They are looking for a new stop to serve the southern end of downtown on this 300 block of Spokane Avenue. In addition to the snow bus, this stop is intended to serve other transit providers as well. According to the Big Mountain Commercial Association, this location is ideally situated to serve downtown businesses, residents of nearby neighborhoods, lodging properties, and nearby schools. It's also highly visible and will help with outreach, letting visitors know there's a free bus service here in town. Of course, according to the Montana Department of Transportation, they do want to see some infrastructure added in order for this bus stop to work. And what they're looking for is a 150-foot landing area, which will provide enough room for ingress, egress to get the bus out of the traffic lane. So doing so will require no parking zone or a no parking zone on either side of Spokane. So when I presented this item to you guys last month, we were looking at 1 to 2 parking spaces over here in the northeast corner, or northeast half of the block, and then about 6 spaces on the northwest half of the block. However, since then, we realized that this entire southwest half of the block is already marked as no parking. So I chatted with Jenny over at the Snow Bus, and she said there's no reason that the stops have to be directly across from each other. So the way that the ordinance is now worded, it simply eliminates the parking here on the northeast half of the block, since the southwest is already designated no parking. So based on these changes, the proposed ordinance will only result in 1 to 2 spaces up here, which I think is much better. The second area, I got too many screens going here. The second area I want to chat about is on Montana Avenue, over here on the north side of the viaduct. So we have received requests from local neighborhood residents requesting no parking in this general area on Montana Avenue, directly adjacent to 312 Edgewood Place. This location is at the foot of a pretty steep hill, and parking creates difficulties for vehicles turning onto Montana Avenue from Edgewood Place. Parking in this location also increases the risk for motorists trying to ascend the hill, or those trying to descend and trying to stop at Edgewood Place, especially with winter road conditions. Parked vehicles in this location also make snow removal much more difficult. So the proposed ordinance that's in your packet will eliminate about 2 parking spaces right here. Obviously, it's in a residential area, and I think there's plenty of other off-street and on-street parking options available. The final change that...
Can I interrupt real quickly?
Of course.
Sorry. I live, as you know, just up the road on Idaho Avenue, and I agree with the rationale for the parking restrictions on Montana Avenue, notably because of difficulty for emergency service vehicles as well. But I was driving that road this afternoon, and there's already a sign on the east side of Montana Avenue, right where the M is on the Google map. It says no parking.
Really? Right here?
Mm-hmm. Just something you might want to take a look at.
Yeah, well, it's funny you should mention that, because I did chat with Jenny, our office manager, about putting a work order together, but I didn't want it to get released yet. I wonder if they already installed the sign.
I think so.
Shoot. Well, we might be a little too on the ball with that one. Okay, well, I'll take a look at it, and if it is, we'll bag that sign for 30 days if this ordinance is passed, because it does have a 30-day waiting period. So my guess is the crew probably put that sign up last week, just getting ahead of this. So I apologize.
Sure. No problem. Just an FYI more than anything.
Okay. So yeah, no, that is the specific area, and I'm guessing that the sign just went up a little early. So we'll take care of that. So the final area that we're going to chat about is over on East 4th Street. Let's see, where are we here? Baker, there's the wave. Just look for the big purple roof. Okay, so we're right here on East 4th Street. This is the 300 block, where we've received requests from local neighborhood residents for no parking on the northeast half of the block, as well as the southwest half of the block. This section of roadway does serve a busy residential and commercial area, and sees a considerable amount of traffic trying to avoid the signal at 2nd and Baker. When vehicles are parked in these areas, it creates difficulties for vehicles turning onto East 4th Street, both from Baker Avenue as well as from Lupfer. In addition, the roadway is not wide enough for 4 vehicles, so traffic is forced to wait when vehicles are parked on both sides of the road. I believe council was in favor of the elimination of the parking on the northeast half of the block, but I think the direction I received last month was to put both on the agenda so we could have a little more discussion perhaps open it up to a public hearing for this southwest half. There is parking in the rear of the, well, I guess not really the rear, it's ancillary parking for the post office over here on the side of the building. They do accept deliveries and packages through their mailbox here in the rear. But we do see considerable number of patrons of the post office who park on the road in this area and this area just to run over to avoid most likely trying to make left-hand turns out of the parking lot. So the proposed ordinance, as I mentioned, does eliminate both the northeast and the southwest. So we'll want to just make sure everybody's comfortable with that. It's a total of about 3 parking spaces that will be lost. So it's not anticipated that this ordinance will result in any additional cost to enforce, nor is it intended to create any additional parking revenue. And I estimate about $250 worth of signs and labor to get the signs up, some of which may or may not have already been done. So based on these requests from residents, property owners, and businesses, and the guidance received from council last month, I do respectfully recommend that council hold a public hearing and adopt the attached ordinance to update various parking restrictions here in town.
Thanks, Craig. Appreciate the staff report. Any questions for Craig on his staff report or recommendations? I'll start with Rebecca.
Well, I'm glad you have a very efficient staff. I do think the northeast section, definitely, I think we should go ahead and eliminate parking there, but the section up above on the hill, right near the ancillary parking, I've never ever seen anybody parked there. So I don't know if that's actually necessary, but I think I will vote in favor of doing both unless someone else feels like I do that it might not be necessary to take those other ones above the hill away. So thank you.
Rebecca, just procedurally, let's not weigh in on how we're going to cast votes until after we hold a public hearing, if you don't mind. And before we go to our public hearing, if you do have any questions, now would be an opportunity to ask Craig.
Thanks.
Respectfully.
Yeah, no, thanks for the correction. I would be surprised how many people might be commenting, except for one person I'm sure will. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Rebecca. Councillor Cornell.
I don't have anything. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Councillor Hennon.
Nothing for me.
Thank you, Ryan. Councillor Sweeney.
No questions. Outstanding staff report. Thank you.
Thanks, Frank. And finally, Councillor Davis.
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Thanks, Craig, for the staff report. We did advertise for a public hearing on what will be our own ordinance 21-02, and we will hold that public hearing now, of course, remotely, and I'll direct the management of our public comment period to Michelle Hauk. Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you. So if you do want to speak towards this agenda item, please raise your hand by hovering over your name in the participants page and click the hand icon. The hand icon is located between your name and either an icon of a camera, Richard, and the microphone. If you don't have that option, please go down to the bottom of your page to the X. There's 3 dots. You can right click there and find your hand icon. If you're attending by phone, *3 will also raise your hand, or you can send me a chat in the bottom left hand or bottom right hand corner. Hit the chat button, type your chat, and hit enter, and it'll come through to me. Richard, if you'd like to unmute your mic and state your name and address, you have the floor.
Thank you, Michelle. Richard Hildner, 104 5th Street, Whitefish. And I really do appreciate Craig's efforts on parking, and specifically I wish to address the situation on 4th. As you have in your packet, a letter from me with several bullet points explaining my position on why I think those parking spaces should be eliminated on both sides of the street, both the north and the south. But I think if you look at the picture that one of the pictures that I submitted, you'll see that there is a car parked on the south, or just on the south side of the credit union, on that side, the north side of 4th. And that's only 14 feet long, which is much too short for a parking space. So let me just go back through and reiterate some things that I said in my comments to you. And first, that particularly, as you can see, in the wintertime, the street, while it's not wide enough for 4, shrinks up by about 18 inches on either curb, so about 3 feet less than what would normally be there. The picture you're looking at the last one, if you could bring that last one up, Michelle, thank you. With the parking lights on, you can see the lady who is walking behind her car, and that's the slot that's only 14 feet long. The problem is that the parking next to Baker on both sides of the street really restricts the ability to turn off of Baker and come back up the hill. Secondly, the ability to see pedestrians is also greatly restricted when parked cars are found on both sides of the street. If in the picture you're looking at now, you look up the hill, continuing on towards Central Avenue, there's no parking on the right-hand side or the south side of the street there. The lower half is all driveway, as you all may recall. The only time that parking lot that the post office has provided for public use, that's Director Workman pointed out, that has approximately 12 parking spaces, and the only time that I have ever seen it full is for the Christmas stroll and the winter carnival. People who park there can then walk all the way to the post office, except for when they cross the alley, with covering, so that it's safer than certainly pedestrian traffic along the sidewalk or walking around the corner. So I would again suggest that you eliminate parking and in that area. What I would also, I don't know if does my cursor show up on your map, Craig?
No,
Or
it
no?
doesn't.
Okay. I think it would make everyone's life easier in terms of parking if you just said no parking between the alley alongside the credit union all the way down to Baker. That's almost a half block. And as both Craig and I have pointed out, there's only one legal parking space there, and then there's that 14-footer between the credit union parking lot and the alley. So that's the elimination of one parking space. Then eliminate parking on the south side of 4th Street between the alley, between the the post office parking and Baker. And that would eliminate perhaps as many as 3 parking spaces, but I think signage would be a lot easier if you just said from here to the corner or to the alley, depending upon which way you're looking at. So I think from a safety standpoint, from a pedestrian safety standpoint, from a vehicular standpoint, it all makes good sense. I don't think that there are that many, and I don't know that anybody's ever done a traffic count, that many folks who avoid the light on 2nd by coming along on Lupfer, because there is such traffic, or parking on both sides of the street in those 2 blocks that it slows them down as much as stopping or trying to avoid the light. So some people try it, but I don't see that happen very often. And as I said, I don't think that there are any traffic counts to support it. So I do encourage you to just extend that yellow paint from Baker all the way to the alley, going west from Baker to the alley between the credit union and the alley by the post office. Thank you very much for your time. It's good to see everybody, except for whatever reason, the only person I can see is the mayor. So good to see at least the mayor.
Thanks, former Deputy Mayor Hildner. It's great to see you too, as always. Michelle, are there any additional
we
public
have-
comments?
Jenny from the mountain.
Great.
You can go ahead and unmute your mic, Jenny, and state your name and address for us, please. Thanks.
Hello, I'm Jenny Cloutier with the BMCA and PO Box 4608, right in that post office we were just talking about. I feel like Craig really covered all of the many reasons that we're hoping for this bus stop on Spokane, and it didn't sound like there were a lot of questions. I just think it'd be a great opportunity for us to have a really visible spot downtown and be able to hopefully have the mountain climbers stop there as well. And this only eliminating 1 or 2 parking spots, I think, is a really good way to not be asking for 6 spots, which is troublesome to swallow downtown. And I've been talking to some of the local business owners, and they think it would be great as well, and our members that are in that area. So thank you all for considering this. I appreciate it. And
thanks, Jenny.
And I don't see any other public comment, John.
I'll go ahead and close the public hearing on ordinance 21-02, and turn it back to the council for a motion preferably.
Mr.
Any
Mayor,
discussion? Frank,
Yeah.
thank you.
I'd be happy to make a motion, but I would like an opportunity to make a friendly amendment to that motion if I get a second for this one. I would move to approve ordinance 2102, subject to my getting I will move to approve that. So.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Thanks, Rebecca. Seconded by Councilor Norton. Frank, would you like to speak to your motion or put forward your friendly amendment?
Well, I guess my open question to Craig, I kind of agree with Richard's comment that if what we're about here is improving safety as much as traffic flow, there's no reason we wouldn't want to extend that no parking to both the north side and south side of 4th Street from Baker to the alley. Is there a reason we didn't do that initially?
So we are doing that. According to this ordinance, what we will be doing is amending the current city code to say no parking on the northeast half and the southwest half of the 300 block. So this ordinance as written does exactly what Mr. Hildner is requesting. And this is the first time you're seeing the ordinance. When we talked about this last month, it wasn't in ordinance form. It was simply a staff report to get some direction. And I thought what I had heard was council was only interested in that northeast half on the credit union side. But luckily, Michelle takes really good notes, and she told me that the intention was to bring both forward for additional discussion. So as the ordinance is written, it does prohibit parking on both sides.
What I heard was it's the southeast section and the northeast section and the southwest section. So that the section of parking that's directly across from the parking lot and the post office still would be available for parking. Is that correct?
No, so what this ordinance does is states no parking on the northeast half and the southwest half. So, so what we're doing is we're saying no parking on the northeast half here or the southwest half here. And as it's written, I assume the half of the block is from the alley, although there really only is one parking space here and a couple here. But we would sign it appropriately so that it's in the entire half of the block on the northeast and the southwest.
Okay. Craig, I understood everything you just said.
Okay,
My concern is the southeast section, not the southwest section of 4th Street. Is there already no parking there?
No, there is parking there. So, you know, that would be this parking. I don't know if you guys can see. The intention is to keep this parking. This parking will remain, as will the parking on the northwest half.
Okay.
Is everyone all right there?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's a dog.
Yeah, so I'm sorry to be jumping around on screens, but the way that I understood the request was eliminate the parking here and here, but maintain the parking here and here. And that's the way the ordinance is drafted.
Okay.
You know, so there is, you know, so here's the southeast half. These vehicles would be allowed to remain, as well as, you know, these vehicles here on the northwest half of the block. I was going to say, this is probably
I withdraw my
image.
comment. I mean, so there, my motion stands as is.
Okay, thanks, Frank. Thanks for the clarification. Craig? Comments from the council? We'll start with Rebecca.
No, I think the intent is to always keep 2 lanes open on that street, and people do use the southeast parking spaces all day long whenever I've gone by there, which is almost every day. So I think it will work as written.
Thanks, Rebecca. Councillor Quinnell.
I have nothing. That does reflect what we talked about at the last meeting.
Thanks, Steve. Councillor Hennon.
No, I think it looks good. I don't have any comments. It was nice to see Richard.
Thanks, Ryan. Councillor Sweeney.
Nothing further.
Thank you. Councillor Davis.
Nothing to add. Thank you.
Craig, I had 1 or 2 questions. Are we doing both painting of the curb as well as signage, or one or the other?
Yeah, we'll go ahead and paint the curb as well.
Okay. Then my next question, I just wanted to thank Jenny for approaching the city. Obviously, public transportation is something that we're focusing on now, especially when we are engaging DOT with our urban corridor plan. A question for you, Craig, and if I neglected to remember, I apologize, but have we been discussing mass transit bus stops as part of that overall plan for North Spokane, et cetera?
Yeah, absolutely. I think transit will be an important conversation as we continue the downtown highway study. You know, with the traffic we have in Whitefish, we can't leave any stone unturned. I mean, it's going to need to be active transportation, being, you know, bike and pedestrian. It's going to need to be mass transit, Uber, Lyft, you name it. We need all of it. And so I think that's one of the benefits to what the snow bus is proposing is that this stop could be utilized by other transit services as well.
Great. Good to hear. Thanks, Craig. And thanks again, Jenny. Not seeing any further comments from the council. Michelle, roll call please on the motion for approval.
Counselor Quinnell,
Aye.
Counselor Sweeney,
In favor?
Counselor Davis,
Favor.
Counselor Hennon,
Aye.
Counselor Norton.
Aye, and congratulations to Richard.
Thank you.
Yes. And that motion carries unanimously. Thanks very much, Michelle. We'll move on to our next agenda item, which is item 7A, consideration to award the bid for the 2021 ambulance to APGAR Ambulance. And I'll turn it over to Chief Page, but he is looking for a recommendation that the City Council award a contract to the lowest responsible bidder, which is APGAR Ambulance of Kalispell, to provide an ambulance as specified in Joe's report. Chief Page.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. You have a copy of my staff report in your packet. We're looking to replace one of our ambulances. Right now, our fleet is a 2018, a 2013, and a 2009. We're looking at selling our 2009 and replacing it with a new ambulance. We did go out for bid for the ambulance, received 4 bids back. 2 of them were very close when they came in. One was from Horton, and $178 more was one from APGAR. I looked at the bids along with my ambulance committee, and we decided that APGAR would be our lowest responsible bidder, as they are a local service, and we do have a history of some issues with the Horton ambulances. We did originally have in our my budget for this year $200,000 for the ambulance. The quote came in at $248,780. One of the problems was we added a infectious disease contamination system, which we'll be able to use on all our ambulances, which added to the price. We also do not have the sale price of our 2009 built in there. So I believe we can cover the overage in my current budget. So we respectfully submit that the City Council award a contract to the lowest responsible bidder, APGAR Ambulance of Kalispell, for the price of $248,780.
Thanks, Chief Page, and thank you for the staff report. Any questions for the chief? Rebecca.
Thanks for explaining why you went with a slightly higher bid. And I think it's a great idea to have the infectious disease decontamination, but I don't know how that works. Is that for the interior space of the ambulance?
Yes, it is. It's a system that plugs into the side of the ambulance and disinfects the interior.
Oh, that's great that you guys can have that. Okay. Thank you.
The other 2 ambulances will be able to handle it too.
Oh, good. That's great. No, thanks for the detail and for keeping everybody safe too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rebecca. Further comments or questions from the council? We will need a motion to Joe's request, please.
Mr. Mayor, I would move to award the contract to the lowest responsible bidder, as outlined by Chief Page, APGAR Ambulance of Kalispell, Montana, to provide an ambulance as specified in the bid for $248,780.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Sweeney. Ryan, would you like to speak to your motion?
Nope.
All right. Further comments? Michelle, roll call, please.
Counselor Quinnell,
Aye.
Counselor Sweeney,
In favor?
Counselor Davis,
Favor.
Counselor Hennon,
Aye.
Counselor Norton.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. And that motion does carry unanimously. Thanks, Chief Page.
Thank you.
We will move on to our second to last item, which is communications from our city manager. You have Dana's report and close with the packet. Any questions for Dana on her report from the council? Dana, anything additional to report on?
Just that we're watching the legislature closely, and I write this report one day and the next day it's wrong. So looking at the House bill, or all the bills that I've listed there, House Bill 137 relating to vaping, that does have a hearing with the committee on the 16th of March. Unless council provides direction for me to provide comment, I have not been commenting on that bill because we don't have an ordinance in place right now. But I'm happy to submit that if you guys would like me to. Still no action on that face mask or face covering bill. That's still just sitting at the Senate. House Bill 259 for the inclusionary zoning, that one is scheduled for a hearing in the Senate, a local government committee on March 12th. And John, I know, or Mayor Mulfold was going to be able to provide comment, and hopefully that's the case. If not, we will make sure we find a counselor that is available, because it's very important that we have our comments heard. The good news is House Bill 359 was tabled. House Bill 435, which revises civil liability for local governments, that's moving forward. And what that's doing is really what we did for, or what they did for businesses with civil liability, they're now doing it for government. So that one's actually beneficial to us. It just clarifies we're not civilly liable. House Bill 473, that was withdrawn along with House Bill 531. House Bill 473 was the resort tax one, which really didn't affect us, but it was a really unique bill. House Bill 550 has been tabled in committee, which is important because that could impact our workers' comp rates if it was passed. And Senate Bill 161 has passed the Senate and is now transmitted to the House. And the very last one I have on there, local option tax, as presumed, was tabled. That one likely will not be going anywhere. So with that, we're still monitoring other bills out there. The 2 tax increment bills we're going to remain silent on. The league has actually been talking to the bill sponsor about saying, hey, if we don't provide comment, please don't allow any amendments to it, because that's where we run the risk. As they're drafted, there's really no impact to how we've operated our TIP districts in the past. And so the risk is low except for amendments. And so I know that they've been in discussions with that. And we're obviously watching those ones regarding the legalization of marijuana as we make plans to look at our zoning and how to implement those new rules. So other than that, attended the Housing Authorities meeting. They did award they're preparing, I should say, to the board approved moving forward with a representative, and I just forgot their name, oh my goodness. But they're working on a contract right now. I will be meeting with Lori hopefully in the next week or two to review the budget and all the funding sources. So they have decided to award that to, oops, my goodness.
I believe it's Montana Construction.
Thank you. That's what it is. I knew you'd know, Craig. It's just my email. And so that is all I have for you this evening.
Thanks, Dana. Is that a local firm by chance, Craig? Or Dana?
No, he's from Great Falls.
Oh, okay.
But did very well in the interview and submitted an excellent proposal. So I think he was the unanimous selection of the committee.
That's great. Thanks for the updates, Dana. We will move on to communications from the council, and I will start with Rebecca. Any comments tonight?
Dana, I guess I would like us to kind of write a letter about the vaping, because we did have a work session on it, and we did move our intentions forward with that, and it might make a difference in the outcome on that. If, who knows though, maybe not. But if you think it would help that to add some support for that bill, I'd hate for things to go backwards. I just wanted to ask Craig if you, it sounds like you did sit in on the snow lot proposal selection committee then? Okay, thank you for doing that. I just wanted someone that had seen a lot of it be part of that process. So thanks for taking the time to do that.
Sure.
And then we are just around COVID, which, are we going to be talking about that tonight, John, or Mayor?
Yeah, I'll come back to you, Rebecca. I neglected to go to item 9A of the agenda, which is consideration of approving our tentative FY22 budget calendar, but I'll circle back with the council for councilor comments and if there's any comments on COVID-19, but I'll turn it back again to Dana to present our proposed budget schedule for FY22.
Great. So in your packet is the budget schedule. There are going to be two, let me see where I have it here, or Ben could maybe even do this for us. There are two dates that are very important for you to make note of, and those are our work sessions. We have them, oh, where? I've lost my piece of paper. Let me pull it up here this way. So the two dates that are very important is the Tuesday following Memorial Day, which will be June 1st, and then the second Monday in June, which is June 14th. So you'll actually have 3 Monday meetings in June, or excuse me, you'll have, yes, 3 Monday meetings in June and 1 Tuesday meeting since it's June 1st. Those are the important dates. Other than that, we're working with the department heads on the budget. This year we do have a new software that we're working through. So we're going through training with department heads tomorrow, actually, during our directors meeting. And it's really neat. There's going to be a lot more graphics that we're able to use. So you might see a little bit different budget format this year, but we're really excited about it. That's it.
You don't need a formal motion to adopt that calendar, do you, Dana?
No, this is really just to give you guys the dates. If you guys have issues with June 1st or June 14th, you know, let us know, because those are very important dates where we have all the departments come together. But a lot of this, when it comes to when it has to be adopted, the preliminary hearing, and then the final hearing, those are really dictated by state law and how our council meetings fall.
Okay. Thank you. One question I had, Dana, you know, obviously we're in strange times, but, you know, historically, at least since I've sat up here, we've always scheduled city council goal setting meetings with typically the city manager, the city attorney, and the planning director at an off-site location, open to the public. Obviously, we can't do that this year. Where are we going to nestle in goal setting session with this calendar?
So our goal setting is generally done in April. Department heads will work on it through March, and we'll look at it in April. We obviously make any changes to the budget at the final stage of the budget, but a lot of the goals we have right now ongoing, we're pretty aware of. But I do think that that's important. I'll also be scheduling some meetings with just a couple counselors at a time, just to be able to answer your questions about the budget session coming up, and then give you some insight about concerns we might have, or budgetary impacts we know about. So, but I would say in April will be, you know, it might be something where instead of having a retreat of the counselors, it might be something where we actually have staff prepare the proposed goals, then we have a meeting remotely. I think we'll probably just have to move with it that way this year.
I think that would be beneficial. I don't even think we did that last year. I recall we did have a work session, but I think if we could provide the council and staff the opportunity to interact and discuss both, you know, staff as well as council goals, I think that would be very helpful.
So we'll work on scheduling that because it'll be very similar to a work session. If we have a work session available, we might use one, but if not, we might have to look at finding a time that works for everybody.
Great. Thanks, Dana. And I acknowledge Steve. Comment.
Yeah, I just kind of slipped my mind a minute ago, but I just wanted to ask Dana if there's, I know that they've released a bunch more PPP money, if any more money is coming towards local governments, and if this new stimulus package is adopted, what that might mean in terms of what we could get from the federal government.
Yeah, so that's a good question. So PPP, we can't apply for PPP loans. Great for our local businesses, but something that we aren't eligible for. That said, if the new stimulus package does pass and they do not gut it of the state and local government funding portion, which tends to be sometimes an issue, then we could see funding. We don't know how much would be allocated necessarily to Whitefish alone or how the state would run that. They often look at a population size like last time where you had to have 100,000 say to even get a direct payment. And it was even more than that because no county that I'm aware of had a direct payment. Or Ben, am I speaking wrong? It was a lot, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah.
It was a lot. I think you had to be a very large organization to get a direct payment. We got ours through the state of Montana, which I think most local governments in Montana received. They're eligible reimbursements from and through the state.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I want to say it was a 500,000 population requirement. And I don't think we have a city in Montana with that population. Obviously, that's like half the state. So.
Okay, thanks. I was just wondering. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
So our money comes funneled through the state if we get in.
Correct.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. And I'll go back to Rebecca, and we'll start with councilor comments tonight. And just take the opportunity, if you want to address COVID-19 now, just go ahead and do that as well.
Okay. I think the vaccinations are going really well. I watched a White House hearing about like 6 weeks ago, we were at 8% of the seniors over 70, and now we're at 50%. There's still pockets where people aren't able to get them. But one thing I wanted to run through here publicly is how our citizens are supposed to have access to the vaccines. And I know a guy went to the health department's, the health board fairgrounds to do mine, but I'm a healthcare professional. But I was wondering if Dana could run through that. And then the only other thing is we're still in the midst of the pandemic. We have 5 new mutations out there now, and I just went to the Glacier Medical the other day to get an antibody test, which I have them, which is good. But the woman at the front desk, I asked her, how is it looking with the numbers? Because they do testing there. And she said they're getting a lot of visitors coming in testing for COVID. And so we are still at pretty high risk, I think, for people bringing the disease to us. So I have some questions about how legally we maintain masking and encouraging distancing. Of course, I think as we all know, most people are going to be keeping up these standards for some time until the teachers get vaccinated, and the kids won't probably be vaccinated for quite a while, but they're starting the trials for that right now. So I guess my main concerns are how we are educating the public about getting vaccinated. And also, I read another article that said the numbers for our nursing home aren't publicly available. And I know Dana's been consistently trying to get numbers throughout the pandemic, and it's been very difficult. But some days I'm just shocked at how little data is actually available to us to manage the pandemic. And so I was wondering if we could improve on that somehow. And the last thing I wanted to say is I read through all the progress that was made by our departments. We didn't really go into it at the last meeting, but it was remarkable that everybody worked so hard to get so much done through what we've been going through. So I wanted to especially tell all the department heads, thank you for working really hard through a really difficult time and keeping us functional as a municipality. So that's it for now. Thank you.
John, oh. You're muted.
Sorry about that. So Dana, would you mind, just to Rebecca's point, just very briefly providing the public some instruction on how they can access vaccines, sign up, et cetera?
Yeah, so there are multiple ways to sign up for a vaccine right now. It is all through the Flathead City County Health Department. Even though we do have a Whitefish location, you actually go through the health department for that location. So you can, go to their website, which is flatheadhealth.org, or you can call their vaccination line, which is 406-751-8119. At this time, they did send out a press release not too long ago saying if you haven't heard, and it's been over, say, 8 weeks, go back online and fill out the form or call, whichever you're capable of doing. And so I think it's important for those that have been waiting for over 2 months really need to sign up again. But those are the two options. And I believe that you are able to, on the online form, so, when you put in your address, they're going to look for Whitefish location opportunities. And when you call in, we do have volunteers at the Whitefish location, so that's really excited. The North Valley Hospital has been very pleased just being able to fill all of their non-clinical positions moving forward. So those are the two options. Phone call 406-751-8119 or visiting their website and filling out their form at flatheadhealth.org.
Great. Thanks, Dana. Thanks, Rebecca, for your comments tonight. Councillor Cornell.
Thank you, John. First thing I'd like to do is I would like to just give a public shout out to Jerome, the lift op at Chair 2, not this past Friday, but the Friday before. There was a guy who refused to wear his mask. The guy shouted obscenities at him, and he kept his cool, shut down the lift, and then the crowd kind of took over after a few minutes and started booing until the guy just took off his skis and he and his girlfriend or wife got out of line and we were able to ski again on Friday night, which was fun. So it was nice to see that there are people willing to stand up and do what's right. And with that, I went to 2 different businesses last night and the masks are coming down and it's unfortunate. So it's, I don't know. I'm not saying things to people because I don't want to make a deal. I don't want to make a scene in public, but it is happening and we just have to prepare for it. And hopefully our businesses will do as well as Jerome did at the Big Mountain the other night. So anyway, the other thing I wanted to say is that I don't usually get gas at the town pump, but I did about a week ago. And I walked inside to get beverage of choice, and I was shocked at the giant display of candy-flavored cigarettes right there next to the cash register, like banana daiquiri Swisher Sweets. I've never seen that stuff before. I just guess maybe I just never paid any attention to it before, but it shocked me. I'm glad that we are taking this on, and I hope that the state government really understands the actual ramifications of a decision that would undo the ability for local governments to prevent these things from getting into the hands of kids. Because it's clear that this is just a way to get kids hooked early so that they're smoking cigarettes and doing those and addicted to tobacco for their lives. So anyway, if you haven't been into one of our grocery stores one of our convenience stores in town, it's an eye opener. And I guess I just never really paid attention to it until recently, but I don't usually go into that store anyway. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. And Councillor Hennon, comments tonight?
Nope, nothing from me.
Thank you, Ryan. Councillor Sweeney?
Nothing. I would just like to endorse Rebecca's idea that we do make a comment on that bill that's pending at the legislature regarding flavored tobacco. I think we need to weigh in. It's important for this community. We're taking, and the argument is the same for several of the others, and that is, how dare you take away locals' governance, the ability to protect their citizens for their health, welfare, and education. It's just wrong. And how these people of, quote, small government would allow this is beyond me. But I sure hope that we will weigh in. I think it's important that we do so. So thank you.
Thank you, Frank. And finally, Councillor Davis.
No comments from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. I don't believe I have any additional comments to add either. Dana, anything from staff? All right. Thanks, everyone. And we'll see you soon. We're adjourned.